Ladies and gentlemen, every human being on this earth is born with untapped potential. Buried inside of you is a future that you have not yet seen, a destiny that you have not yet lived, and abilities that you have not yet activated. But here is the challenge: most people die without ever discovering who they really are. They die imprisoned by culture, trapped by tradition, and bound by limitations others placed on them. Reinvention is not about becoming someone new. It is about becoming who you were always meant to be. To reinvent yourself means to break the molds, to challenge the ceilings, and to refuse to let your history define your destiny. 1. The power of purpose. You were not born by accident. Every product exists because of a purpose, and so do you. Purpose is the key to reinvention. If you don't know the reason for your existence, you will settle for anything life gives you. The first strategy to breaking limitations is to rediscover why you are here. Purpose gives you energy. Purpose makes you wake up with a vision, and purpose makes limitations powerless. 2. Transform your mindset. The greatest battlefield is not outside of you, it is in your mind. Your thinking determines your becoming. As a man thinks, so is he. Reinvention begins with changing the way you think about yourself. Do not allow the labels of your past to define your future. Stop rehearsing your failures. Stop meditating on your limitations. Start seeing yourself the way you were designed, full of potential, loaded with gifts, and capable of impact. 3. Break free from the familiar. Comfort zones are dangerous prisons. The enemy of progress is familiarity. If you want to reinvent yourself, you must step beyond what is comfortable. Growth only happens when you are willing to be stretched. You cannot fly if you are not willing to leave the nest. What got you here will not take you there. Dare to dream beyond your environment, beyond your upbringing, beyond your past. 4. Discipline and daily habits. Reinvention is not a one-time event. It is a daily process. Success is hidden in your daily routine. The habits you tolerate today determine the person you will become tomorrow. Change what you do consistently, and you will change who you are permanently. Discipline is the bridge between potential and achievement. 5. Surround yourself with visionaries. If you want to break limitations, you cannot walk with those who are comfortable with mediocrity. Association influences destination. Align yourself with people who see further than you, who challenge you to grow, who refuse to let you remain the same. Iron sharpens iron. If you keep company with the small-minded, you will shrink. If you walk with the great, you will expand. 6. Embrace the unknown with faith. Reinvention requires courage. It requires stepping into territories you have never been before. Fear will always whisper, "What if you fail?" But faith declares, "What if you succeed?" Faith is daring to believe in a future you cannot yet see. The greatest tragedy is not failure. The greatest tragedy is living beneath your potential because you were afraid to try. My friend, the world is waiting for the real you. Your generation needs the contribution that lies dormant inside of you. Reinvention is not selfish, it is service. When you become who you are destined to be, others will find hope, inspiration, and direction through your life. So today, I challenge you, break the chains of limitation. Step out of the prison of fear. Refuse to live a life of excuses. Reinvent yourself by rediscovering your purpose, renewing your mind, changing your habits, and walking by faith. You are more than what you have done. You are greater than where you have been. And your future is bigger than your past. It is time to reinvent yourself. The best version of you is waiting to be revealed. Thank you. Purpose is the foundation of reinvention, and without it, no matter how much you try to change, you will always circle back to the same patterns. Purpose is not a career, it is not a job, and it is not even something you create. Purpose is something you discover. Everything in life is created with an assignment in mind. Every product you buy comes with a reason why it was manufactured. The manufacturer hides that reason in the manual, and you only understand the value of the product when you read the manual. The same is true for your life. You were not born randomly. You were designed with intention. The tragedy of life is not death. The tragedy of life is living without knowing why you are alive. If you don't know the reason for your existence, you will abuse your own life. Because where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. When you live without purpose, you become a slave to circumstances. Life pushes you in every direction, and you end up settling for less than you were created to achieve. That is why people wake up every morning with no passion, go to jobs they hate, and retire with regrets. They live in cycles of survival instead of walking in significance. Purpose is the antidote to that. Purpose gives you a reason to wake up. Purpose gives you energy, even when the odds are against you. Purpose makes you resilient when storms come, because you know the storm cannot cancel your assignment. Reinvention begins when you stop asking, "What can I do?" and start asking, "Why was I born?" Purpose is the seed of reinvention because it forces you to look inward instead of outward. Many people try to reinvent themselves by changing locations, changing jobs, or changing environments, but they carry the same empty self into new places. Real reinvention doesn't come from external change. It comes from internal discovery. Until you know who you are and why you exist, you will always be limited by the labels that others place on you. Purpose breaks those labels because it reminds you that you were designed with a specific assignment no one else can fulfill. When you rediscover purpose, limitations lose their power. A person driven by purpose cannot be stopped permanently. They may be delayed, but they cannot be denied. History is full of men and women who looked ordinary, faced countless obstacles. But because they discovered purpose, they redefined their generation. Purpose has a way of turning weakness into strength, opposition into opportunity, and pain into progress. Once you know why you are here, you will never again settle for living beneath your potential. Another thing about purpose is that it attracts provision. When you are in line with your assignment, resources begin to flow toward you. People, opportunities, and ideas connect to you because everything that exists was created to support purpose. This means you don't have to chase after things, you have to chase after why you were created. Purpose is magnetic. It draws the right relationships, the right doors, and the right moments into your life. Reinvention happens when you stop chasing success and start chasing significance. Success may give you applause, but only purpose gives you fulfillment. Purpose also redefines your identity. You are not what you have lost. You are not what you have done. And you are not what people say you are. You are who you were designed to be from the beginning. Purpose reveals that truth. Many people carry shame from their past or fear of their future. But when you discover purpose, you understand that even your pain and failures are raw materials for your assignment. Nothing in your life is wasted. Purpose turns brokenness into testimony and gives meaning to every season you endure. Reinvention through purpose is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming yourself, the self that has been buried under doubt, fear, and the expectations of others. It is about peeling back the layers of culture, tradition, and limitation to reveal the original design hidden within you. When you find purpose, you begin to walk differently, think differently, and speak differently. You no longer measure your life by what others have achieved. You measure it by what you were born to achieve. So if you want to break through limitations and reinvent yourself, start by rediscovering your purpose. Ask yourself, why was I born? What problem was I created to solve? What gift do I carry that the world is waiting for? Until you answer these questions, every attempt to change will be temporary. But once you know the why of your life, no obstacle can stop you, no failure can define you, and no limitation can hold you down. Purpose is the key that unlocks reinvention, and the world is waiting for you to find it and live it. Your mindset is the invisible boundary that determines how far you can go in life. Every limitation you experience begins not on the outside, but on the inside. The greatest prison is not made of iron bars or chains. It is built by thoughts. What you continually think about yourself creates the framework of your existence. If you see yourself as small, weak, or unworthy, no matter how many opportunities come your way, you will sabotage them because your mind cannot contain greatness. But if you transform your mindset, you transform your life. Reinvention is impossible without renewing the way you think. The truth is, you were designed for greatness, but somewhere along the journey, the world programmed you to believe otherwise. From childhood, people said what you could not do, what you would never become, and what was impossible for you. Those words became seeds planted in your subconscious. Over time, they grew into a belief system that shaped your decisions, and those decisions shaped your destiny. If you want to reinvent yourself, you must uproot the lies that have been planted in your mind and replace them with truth. You must refuse to let your history dictate your future. Every person has two images, the one others see and the one they see within themselves. It is the internal image that matters most, because your life will always move in the direction of your dominant thoughts. If inside you believe you are a failure, you will unconsciously act in ways that confirm that belief. If you believe you are limited, you will never attempt to rise higher than your environment. But if you believe you are full of potential, gifted, and created for impact, you will begin to make choices that align with that belief. The way you think sets the ceiling of your life. This is why renewing the mind is not optional, it is essential. You must deliberately choose to feed your thoughts with new information, positive declarations, and uplifting ideas. Just as a computer becomes corrupted with bad files, your mind becomes corrupted with toxic thoughts. And just as a computer must be reset and updated to function properly, your mind must be renewed so you can operate at full capacity. Reinvention is a mental upgrade, a conscious decision to think on a higher level than your circumstances. Changing your mindset requires vigilance because old patterns will always try to creep back. It means you must pay attention to what you allow into your eyes and ears. The books you read, the conversations you entertain, the media you consume, all of these shape the landscape of your mind. If you constantly feed yourself with negativity, failure, and fear, your mind will produce the same fruit in your life. But if you fill yourself with wisdom, encouragement, and possibility, your life will reflect those seeds. The process of renewing the mind is not instant, it is daily. You cannot transform your thinking by hearing one positive word and expecting everything to change. Just as habits are built through repetition, your mindset is transformed through consistent practice. Every day you must affirm who you are becoming. Every day you must reject limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering truths. It is a gradual reshaping, but over time, it creates a permanent shift. One of the greatest dangers of a limited mindset is that it makes you settle for less. You stop dreaming big because you convince yourself it is impossible. You stop pursuing opportunities because you already believe you will fail. A renewed mind challenges that voice of fear and says, "Why not me? Why not now?" It dares to attempt the impossible because it refuses to be confined by the past. Reinvention demands that you see possibilities where others see problems, and that is only possible when your mind is liberated from fear and doubt. Another aspect of mindset transformation is how you view failure. People with a limited mindset see failure as a signal to stop, but those with a renewed mind see failure as a lesson on the path to success. Failure is not the end of the story, it is a stepping stone to growth. Every great achiever in history faced setbacks, but they refused to allow those setbacks to redefine their identity. A renewed mind understands that failure does not mean you are a failure. It simply means you are in process, learning, and becoming stronger. When you change the way you think, you change the way you act. And when you change the way you act, you change the results you experience. Your future is waiting for a new version of your mind. Reinvention is not about adding something new on the outside. It is about releasing what has been trapped inside you all along. Your potential is unlimited, but your mindset determines how much of that potential is expressed. So if you truly want to break through limitations, begin with your thoughts. Guard your mind like treasure, because it is. Stop replaying your past mistakes like a broken record. Stop magnifying your weaknesses and ignoring your strengths. Begin to see yourself as valuable, capable, and destined for greatness. Dare to believe that you are more than what you have done and more than what you have experienced. When your mind changes, your entire life begins to shift. A renewed mindset is the key to breaking boundaries and reinventing the future. Comfort zones are invisible cages that feel safe, but secretly suffocate potential. They give you the illusion of security while robbing you of growth. Many people never reinvent themselves because they are unwilling to leave what feels familiar. Familiarity is seductive. It whispers, "Stay where you are." At least you know this. But familiarity is the enemy of progress. Nothing extraordinary has ever been achieved by those who stayed within the borders of their comfort. If you desire to break limitations and reinvent yourself, you must be willing to step out into the unknown, to risk being stretched, and to walk into environments that challenge you to grow. Growth always requires discomfort. Consider the seed. It must crack open in the dark soil before it can push toward the light. That breaking is uncomfortable, but without it, the seed remains buried, never becoming the tree it was destined to be. The same is true for you. Reinvention will demand that something in you breaks. The old habits, the old ways of thinking, the old routines that have kept you where you are. You cannot become who you were meant to be while clinging to who you used to be. Comfort zones are dangerous because they produce mediocrity. They tell you that average is acceptable, that good enough is enough, and that surviving is the same as thriving. But mediocrity is a silent killer of dreams. It convinces you to settle for less than your potential, to live a life of repetition instead of reinvention. The moment you accept comfort over challenge, you begin to die slowly. Reinvention is the decision to reject mediocrity and embrace the stretching process that produces excellence. One of the lies of comfort zones is that they promise safety. But in reality, the most dangerous place to be is comfortable, because life is always moving forward. If you remain in the same place while the world moves, you are not standing still. You are falling behind. What once felt secure becomes a trap. The job you hate but refuse to leave, the environment that no longer challenges you, the relationships that keep you stagnant. These are prisons disguised as security. Reinvention requires the courage to walk away from false safety and step into the uncertainty of growth. Leaving comfort zones does not mean recklessness. It means faith. It means believing that there is more for you than what you see right now. It means trusting that your potential is bigger than your present. Every great achievement in history came from someone who dared to leave the familiar. The explorers who discovered new lands, the inventors who created new technology, the leaders who transformed nations, they all had to leave behind what was known to embrace what was possible. Reinvention demands the same bravery from you. The fear of failure is one of the strongest chains that keep people bound to comfort zones. We are often more afraid of failing than we are excited about succeeding. But failure is not final. It is a teacher. Every time you fail, you learn something that prepares you for success. If you avoid stepping out because you fear failure, you also avoid the lessons that could propel you forward. Reinvention means redefining failure not as the end, but as evidence that you are moving beyond the familiar. Another aspect of leaving comfort zones is dealing with the opinions of others. People will always try to keep you where they are comfortable with you. The moment you begin to grow, you expose their unwillingness to change. and they may criticize, mock, or discourage you. But you cannot let their voices become your prison. Reinvention requires independence from the approval of others. If you wait for everyone to understand your journey, you will never take the first step. The unknown can be intimidating, but it is also where possibilities lie. Everything you dream of becoming is on the other side of your comfort zone. Reinvention is not found in doing what you have always done. It is found in daring to try what you have never done. The first step is always the hardest, but it is also the most necessary. Like a bird that must be pushed out of the nest to learn to fly, you too must push yourself into places that force you to use wings you never knew you had. Breaking out of comfort zones is a process. It begins with small steps, taking on challenges that stretch you little by little. Over time, your capacity grows, and what once seemed impossible becomes normal. Each step out makes you stronger, bolder, and more prepared for greater opportunities. Reinvention is not a single leap. It is a lifestyle of continually pushing yourself beyond the borders of what is comfortable. If you want to break limitations, you cannot remain in the nest of familiarity. You must be willing to soar into uncharted skies. You must be willing to embrace uncertainty as the birthplace of innovation. You must be willing to exchange comfort for calling, safety for significance, and predictability for purpose. The path to reinvention will never be paved with ease, but it will always lead to growth. And growth is the reward for those who dare to step out of their comfort zones and into their destiny. Discipline and daily habits are the quiet architects of reinvention. Many dream of change, talk about transformation, and desire breakthrough, but few are willing to commit to the daily practices that actually build it. Reinvention is never the result of one emotional moment of inspiration. It is the product of consistent discipline over time. Your habits are shaping your future, whether you realize it or not. Every action you repeat, every routine you embrace, every pattern you tolerate is constructing the person you are becoming. If you want to reinvent yourself and break limitations, you must pay attention to your habits because they are the blueprint of your destiny. Potential without discipline is wasted potential. Talent without habits is untapped ability. Discipline is the bridge between what you could be and what you actually become. Many people fail to reinvent themselves not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they lack the discipline to harness what they already carry. They desire the fruit of success without cultivating the root of habits. But life does not reward desire, it rewards discipline. Reinvention requires you to master your daily life because greatness is not built in dramatic moments but in ordinary routines. Consider how the human body works. Health is not determined by what you eat once a month, but by what you eat every day. Fitness is not shaped by going to the gym once in a while, but by consistently training your body. The same principle applies to every area of life. The small things you do repeatedly accumulate into major results over time. If your habits are poor, you will remain stuck. If your habits are intentional, you will evolve into a stronger version of yourself. Reinvention is the gradual accumulation of disciplined choices. Discipline is also about self-control. It is the ability to say no to what is easy, so you can say yes to what is essential. Every limitation you face externally has a corresponding limitation internally, and often that limitation is a lack of control over your own actions. People want to reinvent their lives, but continue feeding the very behaviors that keep them stagnant. You cannot break through boundaries while indulging in distractions. Discipline demands sacrifice. It means giving up comfort today to build capacity for tomorrow. Without that willingness, reinvention remains a wish rather than a reality. Another truth about discipline is that it creates freedom. This may sound like a contradiction, but it is not. Discipline liberates you from the chaos of indecision. When you build habits, you no longer waste energy debating what to do. Your choices are automated by your values. For example, if you discipline yourself to wake up early and read, you don't spend mornings negotiating with yourself. If you discipline yourself to manage money wisely, you don't live in constant anxiety about debt. Habits simplify life, and that simplicity gives you the mental space to pursue reinvention. Daily habits also rewire your identity. Each time you act consistently in a certain way, you reinforce the belief about who you are. If you write daily, you begin to see yourself as a writer. If you study daily, you begin to see yourself as a learner. Habits are not just actions, they are statements of identity. Reinvention is not about trying to become someone else, but about building habits that reveal who you were always capable of being. When your habits align with your purpose, you begin to live as your true self. To establish new habits, you must begin small. Too many people fail because they attempt drastic changes overnight. Reinvention is not about dramatic leaps, but steady steps. Start with one change. Wake up 30 minutes earlier, read a chapter a day, set aside time to plan. These small disciplines compound into transformation. Over time, the small habits become natural, and you can add more. The power of compounding habits is extraordinary. What feels insignificant at first becomes monumental after years of consistency. Discipline also protects you in seasons of low motivation. Inspiration is temporary. Habits are permanent. Motivation will rise and fall depending on circumstances, but discipline sustains you when emotions fade. When you don't feel like practicing, habits push you to practice anyway. When you don't feel like working, habits keep you consistent. Reinvention requires resilience, and resilience is built through habits that function regardless of mood. Those who wait to feel ready never transform. Those who act daily despite feelings eventually reinvent their lives. Ultimately, discipline and habits are acts of vision. You must decide who you want to become, and then create habits that lead you there. Every disciplined choice is a step toward that version of yourself. Every consistent routine is an investment in your future. Reinvention is not magic, it is management. It is the management of time, energy, resources, and behavior in alignment with who you are becoming. So if you are serious about reinventing yourself, examine your daily life. What habits are holding you back? What disciplines must you establish to move forward? Do not despise small beginnings, because every great transformation begins with one consistent act. Discipline turns potential into progress, and habits turn progress into permanence. Your reinvention is not waiting for a miracle. It is waiting for a routine. When you master your habits, you master your future. The people you surround yourself with play a defining role in who you become. No one reinvents themselves in isolation, because your environment influences your growth as much as your effort does. Relationships are like soil. They either nourish the seed of your potential or poison it. If you want to break limitations and step into reinvention, you must evaluate who has access to your life. Your associations are not neutral. They are either pulling you upward toward your destiny or dragging you downward into mediocrity. To reinvent yourself, you must choose relationships that align with where you are going, not where you have been. Every person carries an atmosphere. Some people carry the atmosphere of vision, possibility, and growth, while others carry the atmosphere of negativity, fear, and limitation. When you spend time with someone, you are not just interacting with their words. You are absorbing their spirit. That is why the company you keep is so critical. You cannot spend time with small-minded people and expect to think big. You cannot surround yourself with complainers and expect to become a creator. Reinvention requires courage to disconnect from voices that shrink you and connect with voices that stretch you. Your associations influence your expectations. If everyone around you is content with mediocrity, you will begin to believe that mediocrity is normal. But if you align yourself with people who pursue excellence, your standard of living will automatically rise. Excellence is contagious, and so is laziness. The same way fire spreads, so does the mindset of those you walk with. If you want to break limitations, walk with those who challenge you to think bigger, dream bolder, and act braver than you ever have before. One of the greatest tests of reinvention is the willingness to leave relationships that no longer serve your growth. This does not mean you stop loving people, but it does mean you redefine the level of access they have to your life. Some relationships are seasonal, meant only to take you part of the way, but not the whole journey. Holding on to them too long will anchor you to the past when your destiny is calling you forward. You cannot soar while carrying the weight of those who refuse to grow. Reinvention requires discernment, knowing who belongs in your inner circle and who must remain at a distance. At the same time, reinvention is not just about leaving the wrong people. It is about seeking the right ones. You must intentionally pursue mentors, leaders, and visionaries who see beyond your present and can call forth your potential. A true mentor will not allow you to remain comfortable. They will confront your excuses and demand your best. A true friend will celebrate your progress, not resent it. A true partner will fuel your vision, not compete with it. These are the kinds of relationships that create an environment where reinvention thrives. Associations also determine accountability. Left alone, it is easy to settle into old habits. But when you walk with people who expect more from you, you are pushed to rise higher. Accountability is not restriction, it is protection. It keeps you from drifting back into the patterns that held you bound. Surround yourself with people who remind you of your goals when you feel discouraged, who encourage your growth when you are tempted to quit, and who believe in your potential even when you doubt yourself. This kind of support system is essential for breaking limitations. It is also important to recognize that who you associate with is a reflection of how you see yourself. If you think little of your potential, you will tolerate toxic relationships because you do not believe you deserve better. But when you begin to value yourself, you naturally raise the standard of the company you keep. Reinvention requires self-worth because only when you believe in your own destiny will you seek out people who can help you reach it. The truth is, association influences destination. Birds of a feather truly do flock together. If you walk with the wise, you become wise. If you walk with the foolish, you will inherit their folly. This is not simply a proverb, it is a principle of life. Your inner circle is a mirror of your future. Look at the people closest to you, and you will see a reflection of where you are headed. If that picture does not match your vision, it is time to make changes. Reinvention is a journey that requires courage, faith, and persistence, but it also requires the right company. No one climbs mountains alone. They climb with a team that supports, guides, and strengthens them. Likewise, your reinvention will be accelerated or hindered by those who walk with you. Choose carefully, because your associations will either reinforce your limitations or release your potential. So if you are serious about reinventing yourself, examine your relationships. Who are you listening to? Who are you learning from? Who are you imitating? Who has your ear and your trust? Be honest about whether those connections are taking you closer to your destiny or keeping you tied to your history. Then, with courage, make the necessary changes. Protect your future by protecting your circle. Surround yourself with visionaries, dreamers, and builders, because their influence will lift you higher. Reinvention is not just about what you do, it is also about who you walk with while you do it. Courage and faith are the twin engines of reinvention. You cannot step into a new version of yourself without first confronting fear, and you cannot overcome fear without believing in a future you cannot yet see. Every limitation you face is guarded by fear, and the only way to break through is by walking forward in faith. Reinvention requires daring to step into the unknown with confidence that what lies ahead is greater than what lies behind. The greatest tragedy in life is not failure. It is the refusal to try because fear has paralyzed you. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom, caution, or practicality, but at its core, it is the voice that tells you to stay small, to avoid risk, to protect comfort. It whispers, what if you fail? What if people laugh? What if you lose everything? And so many people stay trapped in the prison of what if? Yet faith asks a different question. What if you succeed? What if this step unlocks your destiny? What if everything you've dreamed is waiting on the other side of your courage? Reinvention means choosing to believe the voice of faith over the voice of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward despite it. Everyone who has ever done something great has felt fear, but they refuse to bow to it. Courage is action in the face of uncertainty. It is saying yes when you don't have all the answers, stepping out when the path is unclear, and trusting that each step will reveal the next. Reinvention demands this kind of bravery because, by definition, it requires you to leave the familiar and enter the unknown. Faith adds power to courage by anchoring it in vision. Faith is not blind optimism, it is the conviction that there is a purpose for your life and that the unseen is just as real as the seen. Faith enables you to look beyond your current circumstances and believe that something greater is possible. Without faith, you will retreat at the first obstacle. With faith, you see obstacles as opportunities for growth. Reinvention thrives on faith because it keeps you moving when evidence seems scarce and results are delayed. Walking in courage and faith also means redefining your relationship with failure. Failure is not the enemy, fear of failure is. Every setback carries within it a seed of wisdom for your future. Each time you try and fall short, you learn something that prepares you for greater success. But fear convinces you that failure defines you, when in truth it only refines you. Reinvention requires the courage to fail forward, to learn quickly, and to rise again stronger. Those who never fail are those who never try, and those who never try never reinvent themselves. Another critical aspect of courage and faith is trusting in timing. Reinvention is not always immediate. It often unfolds step by step. Faith teaches you patience, to keep walking even when progress seems slow, to trust that the seed you planted will eventually grow. Courage keeps you from quitting during the waiting season, and faith reminds you that waiting is not wasting. Every delay has a purpose, and every season prepares you for the next. Reinvention happens in process, not overnight. Fear will always try to magnify the size of your limitations. It will remind you of your weaknesses, your past mistakes, and your shortcomings. But faith magnifies the possibilities within you. It focuses on your strengths, your potential, and your future. When you choose faith, you shift your perspective from what you lack to what you carry. Courage is fueled by this perspective. It sees challenges not as walls, but as doors to be pushed open. To walk in courage and faith, you must also silence the opinions of others. People will project their own fears onto you. They will say, "It cannot be done." Not because it is impossible, but because they are unwilling to attempt it themselves. If you base your decisions on their voices, you will never break free. Reinvention requires tuning out fear-filled voices and listening to the inner conviction that calls you higher. Faith is deeply personal. It is your belief in what you were designed to do, regardless of who doubts you. Courage and faith are choices you must renew daily. They are not one-time decisions, but continual practices. Each day you must choose to confront fear with action, to confront doubt with belief, and to confront uncertainty with trust. Over time, each courageous step builds momentum, and each act of faith expands your capacity to handle greater challenges. Reinvention is not a single leap of faith. It is a lifestyle of walking by faith and not by sight. If you desire to break limitations, courage and faith are non-negotiable. Fear will try to keep you in yesterday, but courage pushes you into tomorrow. Doubt will try to limit your vision, but faith lifts your eyes to what is possible. Reinvention requires both: the courage to take the first step and the faith to keep walking until the vision becomes reality. The best version of you is waiting beyond fear's barrier. With courage and faith, you can break through that barrier and step fully into the future you were created to live.